test 1, 2, 3, 4.
I can hear you loud and clear, Matt.
Thank you. This is Matt May again. Can you promote Erica Carter to a presenter?
Done.
Thank you.
It's 5 o'clock but before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. When speaking, be sure to speak directly into the microphone so that all comments are heard and the record of the meeting is accurate. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon the day of the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comment will be allowed during each agenda item. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. They should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personality. I will now call the meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee for Monday, October 28th, 2024 to order, and I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Stites. Kane. Here. Burrows.
Here. I do know that, have we heard from our BPU person today? Is it BPU tonight or is it?
Miss Henry did resign. She is no longer on the.
Okay, so, and they haven't made an appointment yet, right?
No, they have not.
Thank you. Committee, thank you. We do have a few revisions this evening. Clerk, you want to announce those revisions?
Yes, we have a revisions, change of order of the items. Item number 2 is now number 4. And then we added item number 5 to the committee agenda.
Thank you. Committee, we have 5 items this evening on the agenda, as Madam Clerk said, and they're all action items. So we'll move through the process. But first point of order is approval of minutes from our June 26th and September 25th, 2023 meetings. And they were mailed out in your packet. So I would, at your convenience, If there's not any questions or concerns, I would entertain a motion. Yes, sir. Commissioner Lopez.
Okay, so why are we just now getting the packet for this item number CSO 019?
Can we hold that question until we get through the minutes? We'll come back to that question right off the bat when we start on the agenda. Okay. Is there a motion for the minutes? Okay. We have a motion to approve the minutes of June 22nd and September 25 of 2023. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites, Kane, Burrows,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lopez, you had a question?
Yeah, on this item that we received this packet. I had plenty of time to look at the CSO 055. Plenty of time to read through that. And then all of a sudden now we have pop up CSO 19 out of nowhere. And expect me to read it in 2 seconds.
Anybody on staff want to respond to that? Please identify yourself so that we know who's speaking.
Troy Shaw, County Engineer. We submitted the information for CSO 19 at the same time as CSO 55 into the Civic Clerk. I believe it was just approved or it wasn't approved in that computer program, however that operates. I'm not an expert in that. But we submitted the information at the same time as 55, staff did. So I can't answer why it wasn't approved through the process.
Commissioner Lopez, any other questions or comments?
I'm just gonna try to just zip through this really fast.
Okay. Mr. Murray?
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, in response to your question, Commissioner Lopez, Troy is correct. The two projects were submitted at the same time. There were questions about CSO 19, most specifically. The community has raised concerns about taking the concrete drainage ways out of Jersey Creek and the closure of 11th Street from Washington Boulevard to State Avenue. Quite frankly, there have been pursuits trying to address those issues before the matter was approved to come before the commission. As late as Friday, there were discussions again this morning, again related to those two items. We have received some assurance that Public Works in pursuing CSO 19 is not looking for or calling for the removal of the concrete drainage way in Jersey Creek. But that's why the matter was held up while those questions were being pursued.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. We'll get into more of that detail as we move through and CSO, as we take up CSO 19. And I would assume that you would have additional questions, Commissioner Lopez, as we move forward.
Possibly. I'm just looking through here.
With no more questions, we'll go ahead.
Question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stites.
So is it CSO or SCO?
Yeah.
Okay, because all the paperwork says SCO. That's why I was wondering if it was one or the other, or what changed, or if it's the same thing, or what. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks.
All right, committee, if there's no other questions, we have the item 1 this evening is the resolution dealing with the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. I believe we heard about this just a while back, and I would recognize Laura Cromwell when she gets seated, and whenever she's ready to present, we'll start with that one. Welcome. Committee.
Chair, we have
That's what I'm going to find out. Madam Clerk, do we have Mr. Wake as our fill-in for Rose Mulvaney this evening?
I did not receive that notification, but he can.
Okay. Please have a seat. Yes, that fulfills our obligation.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So is this a permanent or is this a fill-in for tonight or do we with Mr. Wakes?
Just for tonight.
Just for tonight. Okay, thanks.
We have this absence, Ms. Mulvaney's resignation has been here a while, and we just have not had an appointment yet. And so that's why it's important that we do have a quorum. We could have conducted business without Mr. Wakes, but he's here, and I'll respect this presence as representing the BPU for tonight's meeting. Okay. Item number 1, Ms. Cromwell.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Laura Cromwell, the fiscal manager for the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. There's been a slight change to the resolution for my grant that I'm presenting on tonight since we first drafted it a few weeks ago. So we prepared a revised copy and I was going to pass that out now. The only change is the addition of 3 words, which was "and computer equipment." Thank you. So we just slightly modified what we were going to be requesting funds for. That's the only change. The amount is the same and the award itself. But the police department is seeking approval to apply for and accept the federal fiscal year 24 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. I was here a few months ago presenting on a similar grant, but this one is different. This is a local solicitation offered directly through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. The one previous that we applied for this summer was administered through the state of Kansas. So this is directly from the federal government. This particular grant is considered both a formula grant and an entitlement grant. The allocated amount for KCK is based on a formula that incorporates both our population and our violent crime statistics, making this one actually a non-competitive grant program. This year, our allocated amount is $86,202. The police department plans to utilize the majority of this funding to implement and support additional training opportunities for patrol officers. And then funding will also be used to purchase 2 computer voice stress analyzer or CVSA devices, which are primarily used as part of our department's hiring process. The performance period for this grant will extend through September 30th of 2027, and there is no match requirement from the UG.
Wonderful. I misspoke when I said we had this grant last meeting, but this is a new grant.
Yeah, it's from the same overarching program. The state also will apply for funding under the same program, and then they subaward it out to units of local government and organizations across the state. So we apply there, and then we also apply directly through to the federal government.
So in total, if I may, and in total, how much were the grants? The other one was 400 and some thousand.
The one for the state that we applied for on behalf of the police department was 160,000, and then this one's 86,000.
Must have been the.
But we've applied for several throughout the summer, so.
Thank you. Congratulations. That's a big deal. Any questions from the committee? Thank you. Before we do that, I do have to ask if there's anyone. Clerk, is there anyone present who would like to speak to this?
No hands are raised online at the time.
Thank you. Anybody in attendance tonight wish to speak to this item? Let the record show no one step forward. Any written comment tonight?
No comments were received.
Thank you. Now I would entertain that motion.
Second.
Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call: Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites, Kane, Wakes,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And just for my heads up, Madam Clerk, I've got number 2 is the resolution for the drug grant, but we said we were going to move item number 4 to number 2.
Item number 2 should be the Kansas Fights Addiction Grant.
Okay, that's what I have on my agenda. I just wanted to make sure I looked at the right agenda. Thank you. Okay, committee, our second item is an action item also. It's the Kansas Fights Addiction Grant. It's the grant in the amount of $143,321.94. It would allow us to expand treatment, emergency housing, transportation, and defense services for those offenders on our behavioral health and drug courts. I will recognize Phil Lockman, our Community Corrections Department, to make a presentation. Mr. Lockman.
Good afternoon. I'm Phil Lockman, Director of Department of Community Corrections. This is the first time we've ever applied for this grant. I think this may even be the first year that they've done it through the Attorney General's office, but what we're attempting to do in this is to just expand our capacity by about 30%. This doesn't include this. There is no match. This doesn't include personnel. It's just merely the costs of doing business, which is primarily emergency housing, attorney's fees, inpatient, although we ask for a substantial amount to target one of our biggest issues with offenders right now, and that's transportation. And so that's something we would like to try to tackle with this, is getting them to their jobs, to work, to drug court, and to their treatment, and trying to expedite that process, because besides housing, excuse me, transportation is one of our biggest issues. And this starts in 2025 and has the potential to go on to 26 and even after that. But a lot of that depends on who else gets grants in the state of Kansas and the amounts and how much is unexpended. But we're hopeful that if we're awarded this, that we would be able to go into 26 as well.
Thank you. You said no match.
No match, and no new personnel.
Committee, any questions? Mr. Lockman, will you be using public transportation, Uber, or private services? When you talk about transportation, will be a majority of it?
Well, that's what we're trying to work out some stuff with kind of an innovative program with Uber and Lyft potentially for some people, because they don't have access to the public transportation sites, and to expedite them getting to and from. But that's one of the things we'll be working on.
I would encourage you to reach out to our KCATA representative, our public transportation person, for rideshare or paratransit opportunities that will expand that grants usage over time. So I'd encourage you to do that.
Yes, and we're planning on that.
Great, thank you. Does any other member have any questions? Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7. When you said they don't have access to public transportation, where are we at in our county that we don't have access, that they can't get?
Well, we ask a lot of these people because we're wrapping up so much of their time. And sometimes the wait times and waiting for buses and for transport can be a little excessive for them, because we're requiring them to work, to come here, potentially 4 times a week, plus coming back for urinalysis testing. And so the quicker we can get them to and from places, but that we do use the area transportation though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I'll ask the clerk if there are any comments we received from the public.
No comments were received.
Thank you. The clerk, were there any comments via the online?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask if there's anyone present this evening would like to speak to this item. Let the record show no one stepped forward. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution, the Kansas Fight Addictions Grant.
Move for approval.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the Kansas Fight Addictions Grant. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Kane. Wakes.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. This takes us to item 3, which is another resolution approving revisions to the County Emergency Operations Plan. And is Matt May present?
I am, sir.
Oh, thank you. You're online, Matt. Great.
I am.
You want to just go ahead and make your presentation?
Sure. First, I'd like to also introduce Erica Hupka / Carter, recently changed, and she works with iParametrics and has been a contractor supporting the rebuild of this plan as well. So I will probably lean on her from time to time to make sure I state this correctly. For everyone's first, good evening, everybody. This is Matt May. I'm the Emergency Management Director for the county. And we are requesting a adoption of a rewrite of our county emergency operations plan, and I'll refer to that as the CEOP probably from here on out. You should have had a link to the entire plan, which is quite a voluminous document. Included in there should have been a list of key changes that should draw your attention, and they're kind of in order. We took the opportunity to do our 5-year rewrite at this point that we normally would do next year. However, there is one major piece that I would like to take our limited time and point to, and that is a total rewrite of ESF 14. For those who haven't seen it before, this document is segmented into 15 emergency support functions. That's the ESF acronym. I will try really hard to remember to tell you what those mean. And the base plan. So we did a little bit of a rewrite with the base plan. I believe every ESF got touched, but ESF 14 was a complete gut and replacement, and that's due to a change made at the federal level. If you'll recall, about 18 months ago, we brought you a standalone recovery plan that has become much, much more important to a successful recovery of our communities, is to not short shrift it by giving it one little piece in the response plan, but to build its own recovery plan. So in place of that, which is what ESF 14 was predominantly focused on, the feds have asked us to focus on cross-sector business and infrastructure relationships. And so the ESF 14 chapter is a totally new rewrite. You'll see there are a lot of groups and agencies and departments listed there as members of that group. That is because it is a very broad, wide expanse of coordination and communication and collaboration. I take this opportunity to ask for input from you folks. If you don't see somebody on these lists that you think should be on this list, please drop us a note in the emergency management office or as a response back through the clerk to let us know that that's somebody we should reach out to. Again, this is brand new across the country. It's brand new. So we want to make sure that we include as many people and departments and agencies as we should have. To that end, there's a big long list there. Also, I would push you to take a look at, if you haven't already looked at the links, starting on page 5, what the purpose, scope, and policies are. Please take a look at that, see if you have any concerns about that, but that'll give you a sense of the width and breadth of this particular section. Really, truly, this is an important aspect of it. Just to give you a field of reference, I believe it's been almost 18 years since Joplin had their ESF or their EF5 tornado rip their town literally in half. They are still in recovery. That's how important the recovery element is. So having it be its own standalone plan is going to really help us affect a better, quicker, faster, and more complete recovery. But then we also need the inclusion of these cross-sector businesses and infrastructure so that we can make sure that businesses have the infrastructure resurrected that they need to continue to do their business, because we understand that our ability to recover is somewhat based around making sure that these businesses and these other players all have their abilities, and this includes nonprofits and so forth, have the ability to recover as well. And so that's the big gist of ESF 14. Erica, anything I've missed that needs to be pointed out?
No, Matt, you've hit the biggest highlight.
All right, excellent. Are there any questions, commissioners?
Yes, Matt, there are some
Yes.
questions. We do not have those documents. I've looked in my phone. I
Oh,
did
no.
not receive an email to review those. So I don't know if I was the only one that didn't receive an email, but the majority of my committee are all shaking their heads that that email did not come through. Therefore, it's very difficult for us to have an opportunity to review the information and move something forward.
I apologize. I thought that had been done. There should have been a link available because they are quite big. That would allow you to go and look at the particular parts as were listed in we had a little spreadsheet in there for you to look at, to see where those changes were made. So I'm not sure who from the clerk's office, if that was Monica, who I heard earlier. But if we could get that to them, that would be fantastic. How do you want to proceed, Chair?
Well, Mr. May, that's what I was going to ask you. I know that having disaster plans in place, emergency, it's significant and it's very important. However, I believe I can speak for the committee when we hesitate to advance anything that we have not had a chance to review.
I totally understand that. And I will offer that we're under a bit of a timeline that the state would like to have this back. And let me tell you where we are with that second. The state would like to have this back with your resolution and adopted before the end of the year. And that would also include trying to reach out to both Bonner Springs and Edwardsville as well. So I think I can work with the clerk's office to see what our next available opportunity would be to make sure that you have those, and then see how we can proceed from there if we need to put it back on the next agenda. Or
I would encourage us to do so versus having the committee vote it down because we don't have the information. So I would encourage you to work through the clerk's office to get this rescheduled. Madam Clerk, do you have a comment?
I do. Chairman, on your agendas, there is a link to all the documents because there was over 200 pages of that document. We did not make copies. We created a link for you guys to go and review that. It is available for you and I can email it to all of you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Wakes?
Yes, you mentioned earlier, Mr. May, you mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, Stevie Wakes, BPU. You mentioned earlier that if we had any others that we felt you should reach out to. I was wondering, what was your communication with neighborhood associations?
We reached out to several. When you see the document, you will see a lengthy list of, actually, I think 14 now has the biggest list of different groups from the Institute of Architects, American Red Cross. Let me see if I can find the neighborhood groups. I certainly know that our neighborhood association or our Living Neighborhoods group is listed on here. I'm looking through, blah, 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 blah. Almost every UG division department is listed. Wyandotte Center, Economic Development Council, the Sheriff's Office, Housing Resources Corporation, the Insurance Department for the state's Volunteers Active in Disaster, State Water Office, the Drainage Districts, the Salvation Army, the Black Chamber of Commerce, Asian Chamber of Commerce, both Bonner Springs Fire and Police, Conference of Building Officials for the Heart America chapter, every Chamber of Commerce group you can imagine is on here. Hispanic Chamber, Greater Kansas City Chamber, Housing Department, Fire Department, Police Department, Regional Community Organizations Active in Disaster, Damage Assessment Teams, etc. So when you see that, if you would, please go through that. I am very open. To be honest with you, this is because it's the first stab at writing this for us, and it was based on a federal standard that's very vague. We call it a skeleton, but we have to kind of hang some stuff on it, and I can detail for you how we went about doing that. We reached out with emails and phone calls, and then we held individual meetings to bring people together so that they could discuss this document and its impact in the community.
Thank you, Mr. May. I'm going to ask the clerk to reschedule this for the next month's meeting. And we will, I don't need a motion not to take this up. I just think we're just going to carry this one over because all the documents weren't there. But if there's some guidance you want to give me, legal or Mr. Administrator, as to how you want me to handle this, otherwise I'm just going to ask that we reschedule this until next month.
We like to have it carried over.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you. That takes us to item, and Mr. May, I look forward to that information and we'll have a chance to review it. And should there be any questions, we'll reach out to your department.
We'll get it to you very shortly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That takes us to item 4, committee, a resolution approving the EPA change grant. And I do know that we have some members of the staff here today to talk with us. This is the change grant SCO 55 and approving the memorandum of understanding with the Central Avenue Betterment Association. And I'll start with Troy Shaw from the Public Works Department to make any opening comments and presentation. Welcome, Troy.
Shaw County Engineer. Quick note, so the way we've built the presentation is to discuss CSO 55 and 19 in the same presentation because it's the same grant, it's the same information. So items 4 and 5 are covered under the same presentation. Just to note that.
Okay, I will advise you, it takes 2 separate votes, though they're 2 different items.
They are.
So we'll,
Here's as multiple votes.
okay,
We just didn't want to do the same presentation twice.
gotcha. No, I'm all about efficiency. Thank you.
So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Miles and Sarah Schaefer to go over this, and then we'll be glad to answer questions in the end.
Thank you, Troy. Jeff Miles, I'm the Director of Water Pollution Control. To my left here, Sarah Schaefer, Senior Engineer of Capital. We're here tonight to request your approval for 2 critical steps. 1, applying for 2 $20 million grants. And the number 2 is authorizing a memorandum of understanding, MOU, to support these efforts. As you know, we're in the 5th year, going on our 5th year of a 25-year consent decree with the EPA, which requires approximately $1 billion worth of investment to upgrade our infrastructure. To meet these obligations, we're continually seeking opportunities to help keep future rate increases minimal as possible, as outlined in our consent decree. Interestingly, these 2 grants we're seeking come from the very agency which we hold the consent decree with, the Environmental Protection Agency. Securing this funding would not only provide significant financial support, but it would also show the EPA that we're fully committed to exploring every possibility, every possible avenue to fulfill our consent decree obligations. Unlike many other grants, these particular opportunities do not require matching funds. Instead, the EPA's program mandates collaboration with a community-based organization. This structure is intended to enhance public education, community reinvestment, ensuring that funds stay within our community and foster a partnership-driven approach to improvement. This partnership and community education will not only help with these projects, but help give a broader understanding of the challenges our community faces with aging and out-of-compliant infrastructure. With that, I'll turn it over to Sarah, who will provide more details and address any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So why the EPA Community Change Grant? So 1, we have benefit to our ratepayers. This is $40 million collectively, 2 $20 million applications, if received, that offset our ratepayers' increases to their rates. So goes directly into supported required infrastructure work. So these 2 projects are required. They're currently in our capital plan, and so they need to be funded. We prefer the EPA to fund them. Eligible and competitive with our partnership activities. So this grant aligns with our community's desire for that community-led involvement and with our grant requirements and strategies. So there are 6 grant requirements and strategies that were outlined in the NOFO, or the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and we're looking to address 4 of those 6: the climate action strategies, the pollution reduction strategy, the community engagement and governance plan, and the community strength plan. So first, CSO 55. This is a grant application for $20 million. You can request up to $20 million. We're requesting the maximum amount. The activities that we're requesting to be funded is the CSO 55 design. This is all phases of that to be cohesive and in alignment for the full range of the project. This is a multi-phase, multi-year project. The CSO 55 design in its entirety would be part of this activity. CSO 55 Phase 1 construction, the community engagement, and then, so those 3 are direct offset to the sewer fund ratepayers. These projects are currently sewer rate funded for CSO. And then the non-residential stormwater grant credits is something that, based upon some comments that we had and some insight from our previous meeting, it was taking a look at what could we do for the stormwater rate. And we do know that there's non-residential land that is predominantly pervious or over paved. We have folks that want to come in and remove that pavement, but don't necessarily have the initial project capital to remove it, to get it into a stormwater space. And so this would be an opportunity for us to go in, assist in that, train workforce, as well as then result in reduced pavement space, which then would reduce those rates on those participating non-residential lots. This particular project, CSO 55, is estimated at total of $60 million over multiple years and phases, but it covers 35 million gallons of stormwater as part of the consent decree, stormwater captured or managed is what we end up saying it. Other community benefits that align with this grant include multi-departmental opportunities, which aligns with our air quality, our heat island, and our brownfield and land bank strategies. CSO 55, this is the approximate project area. This is outlined per the consent decree area that we identify as the CSO 55 sewer shed watershed space. So CSO 55 grant funding breakdown by activities. The requested maximum grant award is 20 million. We're requesting that with no local match required per the EPA. The unified government's activities would be the CSO 55 design and phase 1 construction at approximately 19 million. The non-residential stormwater grant credits program at $500,000, and then CABA, who is our community-based organizational partner who makes this grant possible, would facilitate the community collaboration at $500,000 approximate budget. Moving on to CSO 19 grant application. Yeah.
Before we move on to CSO 55, I'd like to stop right there in case there's any questions with CSO 55 before we move into 19. That way we can keep them separate.
Perfect.
Committee, any questions, comments concerning CSO 55? Commissioner Lopez.
So on your CSO 55, general provisions, letter F, 1 through 6, accounting, retention, and access to records. Both partners will maintain and allow complete access to all books, records, documents, papers, and letters that are made or received by the partners or partnership in connection with this agreement. So that basically we can have at any time, we can have access to records if we want at any time, or do we have to go through like all kinds of hoops and whatnot to look at that?
We'll go ahead and hand that question to Dan as it's part of the MOU. That MOU does have very specific required language that's per the federal government, because the federal government requires that as well.
You know, as part of the MOU, there wouldn't be any formal process by which we would have to obtain documents from CABA. Any documents that are not given to the UG in tandem should be shared by CABA without any sort of formal request. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, it does.
Commissioner Kane.
That's a great question. And I tell you why. I think that we should have both at-large commissioner and Commissioner Stites sit on the committee to help oversee what's going on. And also when they have to hire somebody to do the job, they should be in on the hiring process. So we have our eyes and ears at the table at all times. You know, I know that it's a $20 million grant. Like you said, if we don't get the grant, we have to pay for it for ourselves no matter what. But at $20 million, I think we need some of our fellow commissioners to oversee the project so we know where the money is going. And we have questions we can ask the commissioners. And I haven't asked them formally, but I'm asking the two of them right now. Would you guys mind doing something like that? Because I think it's that important that we have representation on that committee, making sure that money goes where it's supposed to go.
I guess the question I have is, I don't know if there is a committee of oversight except through the CABA board, or is it through your department? How is it set up to do as Mr. Kane suggested?
So it would be, and Sarah can correct me, I'm not, she's more familiar with the federal side of it, but it would be ran as a public works project. We could provide weekly updates, cost breakdowns. Sarah keeps this for all her projects. She has a very detailed list of where all the money's going and what it's getting spent for. We could provide that weekly. If we will, you stole my thunder after my last slide was going to be, so if we are awarded this, we will come back to commission with the contract for the sub-recipient, which would be CABA for CSO 55. So what that contract will have that will need to be approved by commission, it will have specific tasks that need to be completed by CABA to get the money. So that's how it would operate. So you guys will see that contract with CABA and approve that contract before we move forward.
Mr. Kane, is that the committee thing that you were referring to?
Yes, and I tell you why, and I think that's great that you guys are doing it. But I'd like to have an extra set of eyes and ears. They're obviously going to have to hire a person to do this, CABA is. So I would want somebody there to say, hey, you know, it's just extra eyes and extra ears, you know, to pay attention, because this is $40 million. This is a lot of money, and we need it because we don't want it to come out of our pockets. But this is two of the biggest things I've seen in the 19 years I've been here, and I don't want to muff them up. You know, I think there needs to be some, like I said, extra eyes and ears. I think it would help the process. I would feel more comfortable voting for this if the three commissioners were there.
Thank you. We have a few other questions and we'll address that. Commissioner, I'm sorry, Mr. Wakes.
Thank you. I'm just curious, due to this, I was wondering, this CSO 55 is pretty large area. I was wondering, CABA has been chosen. I wonder, was it competitive, or how has CABA become a part of this?
Yeah, great question. Our process to date when engaging with community-based organizations has been through a call for interest or a solicitation through livable livable neighborhoods. I get it wrong every time. Livable Neighborhoods Department. And we go through livable neighborhoods. We do a call for interest. The interest was sent out. It identified that we have this specific project that we're looking for a community-based organization to support the UG and going after funding, because the unified government is not eligible for this grant without a community-based or organization to help us through that process. And CABA came back interested. We met with them, identified all of the requirements per the EPA. They continued to be supportive and interested and entered into an MOU through signature. And that's what we're presenting tonight.
Appreciate that. Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, you said earlier this is up to 60 million. So it sounds like it'd be three different increments of 20 million apiece. Am I right there?
The overall project, it may be broken down into many, many phases, depending upon our financing and our budgetary process to get to that 60 million, but it's estimated at a 60 million total investment.
Okay, so let's just say it is 60 million. It's just for tonight. Let's just say it's 60 million. So that would be three increments of 20 million. Does that mean our partner gets 500,000, each 20 million comes in?
This is a one-time partnership for $500,000 for this grant. It's a
So-
three-year
So our
three-year
partner would only-
contract with the EPA for the grant, but it's a one-time effort.
So the grant, the total project is 60 million. So if we submit for this grant and we get this grant, that means we get a $20 million grant for the $60 million project. So 500 of that is going to their community-based organization. Another 19.5 is going directly to the project, which means that the ratepayers would only need 40,500,000 to cover the remainder of the project as opposed to the full 60.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Thank you, Troy.
Mr. Galicia, is he here today? Oh, yeah. For the record, would you inform this committee where you reside?
Where I personally reside?
Yeah.
On the northeast area of Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there more questions? No?
I don't have any more.
Thank you. Mr. Kane, I'm going to ask legal what opportunities we might have to address your question. The grant doesn't speak to a committee per se. I think it's basically staff and contractual engineering group. But I agree with you that the more eyes through the project, the better. Those of us that represent the community. So I'd ask legal and or the administrator what options we would have to address Mr. Kane's concern.
We could probably answer that.
Want me to go? I can go first. From a staff perspective, we'd be glad to, we know it's not a formal committee, but we'd be glad to have weekly meetings, what you want, as long as it's okay with legal administrator's office. As projects are going on and as you get more comfortable, maybe you want them 2 weeks or every day. I don't, whatever works. We'd be glad to do that with you or whoever commission wanted, as long as it's okay with legal administrator's office.
And that could be identified in that subaward contract. So through contractual language, that would be an administrative requirement that we could put into the subaward.
Okay. Mr. Kane, does that address your concern? Commissioner Stites.
Stites District 7. So it was the 2 at large and then myself was the request, and obviously the 1 at large and myself are here tonight. Commissioner Bynum's not here. I will do whatever is asked of me to help, oversee and cite. One of the things you said there, Troy, was that we'd give you a weekly update. I don't want to be on the back end. Hey, this has already happened. Right. So I want to be on the front end of it, not, hey, this is what we did. I want to. Yeah. Just so we know, hey, this is what's going to be coming up. I think that's where we want to have that, not this is what we did and you're informing me now. I think that's what Commissioner Keynes was asking.
We have, say our larger projects, we'll have weekly meetings with the project team type of deal, those type level of, all right, here's where, and then some of those, all right, what were we expecting to do last week? What did we actually get done? What are we planning to do next week? That level of, we can have that level of discussion.
You got it. Well, I'm willing to do whatever part that is necessary on my behalf to help out with that project. Thank you.
Commissioner Kane.
And Commissioner Sy said best, upfront's best, not finding out after the fact. And that's what I'm talking about, being involved as we're going, because at first I think you would be heavily involved. And then as it got going, you'd be less involved, but so we understand the direction that we're going, the needs that we have there. And I want to remind the community that we're having somebody else pay for it. We're not. So, and if we don't do it, we're gonna have to pay for it for ourselves. So that gives us, 6 extra ears, 6 extra eyes to pay attention to what's going on. So that would make me feel comfortable with these 2 projects.
And I appreciate it, Mr. Kane, because it brings the commission's voice to the projects. So I appreciate that. Are we pretty clear as to how we should move forward on that? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments before we move on to send it to CSO 19? Are you wanting to make a motion on that, Mr. Kane, or? Okay.
You guys, on whatever basis it needs to be, whatever is bi-weekly.
Commissioner Stites?
Well, I don't know that I don't know if anybody's talked to Commissioner Bynum. We're kind of putting her in saying, the 2 at large is in a motion. We're volunteering her to do it. So I'm not.
We can also define that when we come, because we'll have to come back to you. If we do get the grant, we can come back to you and we can define that.
Yeah. And we have at least 2. And if there's another volunteer, then we'll have another volunteer.
So we've kind of outlined potentially what an action item would look like. And that would be the motion to authorize the resolution for the county administrator to enter into the MOUs with the CBO partners and for staff to submit the grant. And then finally for the UG to enter into the grant contract upon award. That grant contract would be between the unified government and the EPA. All subawards, and we can indicate that includes any type of outlines for commission participation and identification. I think in those particular contracts at that time, and that way then we can make sure that all the commissioners requested to be a part of that would be at the table for when those subawards are presented for action. So this is ultimately what our next steps would be for CSO 55. If we wanted to take the time, Commissioner Burrows, to do the action item for 55 and then move on to 19, is that the preferred?
Yeah, I know you wanted to make the presentation collectively, but if we can separate it and stay on CSO 55 specifically, because at CSO 19 might have different requests and requirements. So I would encourage us to just look at CSO 55 initially. Okay, are there any other comments or questions in regard to CSO 55?
I might add real quick.
Yes, please.
We want to fast track it to November 7th because the applications are due November 21st. So we want to make sure that we have time.
Add that to my motion.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to make sure that we have the public gets a chance to say what they would like to. So I'll ask this time, if there's no other comments from committee, I'll move to, I'll ask the clerk if there are any comments received from the public.
No hands are raised and no comments were received.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present who would care to speak to this item this evening? Please identify yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comment, name and residence for the record, please.
My name is Pamela Penn Hicks, Wyandotte County. I sent an email to the commissioners on this committee today with some concerns that I have. There are a total of 53 CSOs, and the CSO 55 has included within that area some of the other CSOs, including 19. So we had brought up an issue before. First of all, would CABA representation on this application encompass all the CSOs that are currently listed with Public Works? CABA's basic responsibility prior to this has been to work with the 18th Street corridor, the businesses, and basically Latino and Hispanic cultural events, and had not necessarily had engagement with the larger part of the community that CSO 55 would encompass. When the request went out for the call for interest, going through livable neighborhoods, I don't know who all is part of livable neighborhoods, but mostly they're neighborhood groups. But there are other organizations in this community like NBRs, CDCs. I don't know if they were part of that call for interest or if outreach went further than livable neighborhoods. That would be of concern to me because there might be another organization that had a broader representation for that area. From the, so basically with my contention that just going to livable neighborhoods, you're dealing with very small neighborhood groups, which means that outreach is not sufficient throughout that area, the large area the CSO 55 encompasses.
You have 1 minute remaining.
When we were first discussing this, we got a lot of conflicting information about what actually happened after the sewers separation occurred, that there would be a green infrastructure. And I know that Mr. Murray mentioned that he had conversations with people, but I don't know who that was, because we brought up issues such as making sure that we did not end up with any marshlands or open conveyance on the land bank properties that are part what they refer to as non-residential lots, or land bank properties that currently do not have structures on them. And one of those areas is right behind the waterway, right behind Big 11 Lake, down Everett and Oakland. And there are businesses in that area, and they're concerned about whether or not they will have open water behind their businesses. So these were some of the concerns that we were bringing up and have not fully been resolved. Community engagement was also a critical piece of this change grant, and we're not sure that that has been sufficiently addressed.
Your time.
Bring
has
those
expired.
concerns to your attention as you ponder this. And those, my remarks also apply to CSO 19. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Penn Hicks. Anyone else care to speak to this?
Chairman, we do have a hand raised online.
Please.
Candy Leonard Caldwell.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes, good evening. Candy Leonard Conwell, Kansas City, Kansas, Organization for Community Preservation. We are in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. Did you give an address, please?
Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, anyone else?
There are no other hands raised online.
Okay, great. Thank you. Committee, Mr. Kane, you had a motion?
Commissioner?
Yes.
Before Mr. Kane offers his motion, I would like to advise the committee that if there is an oversight committee appointed, then that would be subject to open meeting requirements and COMA. So I'd just like to advise you of that. And with that said, and let Mr. Commissioner Kane make his motion.
And the more the merrier. I mean, this should be in the open. We should let everybody know what's going on, you know, because we're always saying that we did this behind closed doors. Well, let's open the doors. Let anybody who wants to come in. They won't be able to comment, but they ought to be able to come in and listen. So if that goes along, I mean, look, it's $40 million. We don't have to pay a dime. It's pretty simple that I'm asking for oversight from the commission because we're the ones that have to answer the questions, not you guys. And no disrespect to the work that you do, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that get chewed or pats on the back, and we get more chewing than we do pats. So anyway, I'd like to have an oversight committee for this. I'd like to make a motion that we fast track it to November 7th. So, and like they said, the application is due by November 21st. And if we hold this any longer, we'll lose it. It's the bottom line.
Commissioner Stites?
If it's possible, I mean, there was a question raised, and I think that Sarah's answered that previously about the selection process. But since that was brought up again tonight, quickly, would you be able to give the 30,000-foot view again to answer that? How that, who was reached out to? NRC, Livable Neighborhoods, talked about NRC earlier, sorry. And then how was CABA ultimately selected? And I don't want to go through but just I think that we deserve to have that question answered.
Sure.
Thank you.
So our current process on how Public Works reaches out to community-based organizations is through the department that runs the community-based organizations, which is the Livable Neighborhoods. So we solicit through a call for interest, and that call for interest is sent out to the Livable Neighborhoods list. And the criteria for this grant requires that community-based organization to be located within the boundary of the project. And so that does initially limit responses. And CABA was the one who responded as being interested in supporting the unified government in the pursuit of this grant. We met with them. They continued to understand the criteria and the need to meet those criteria of community engagement, education, and outreach, and entered into the MOU, which then we brought to the commission.
No further questions or concerns? Madam Clerk?
Chairman, I just do want to add that anything that is approved tonight's agenda will automatically go to November 7th. So a fast track is not needed.
So you don't need that in your motion, but we'll leave it in there because it's already there. Okay. Madam Clerk, we've got a motion and a second. Please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Kane. Wakes.
Aye.
Burrows. Motion carries.
I mean,
Thank you.
CSO 19. sorry.
CSO.
Habits are hard to break.
CSO 19, here we go. CSO 19 grant application is eligible for up to $20 million. We're asking for the full $20 million within our application for activities for CSO 19 Phase 2, design and construction. This would be a direct offset to the sewer fund, stormwater treatment facilities maintenance. This would be a direct offset to the stormwater rate fund. What's interesting about our ability to ask for this is we heard from the commission that the eyesores that our current treatment facilities are, and what can we do about those? It's difficult to find grant opportunities to fund maintenance activities, but through this particular grant, we're able to utilize our stormwater treatment facilities as training grounds for the workforce development to understand and learn how to implement, install, understand, and maintain stormwater treatment facilities. So we were able to bring that in, and then community engagement, which is a direct offset to the sewer rate funds as it's part of our projects and programs overall. Other community benefits that align with this particular grant, there is a mobility component within here for a trail, air quality and heat island, our local area plans, and then our brownfield and land bank strategies. So CSO 19 has an estimated cost of $29.5 million. Phase 1 is in construction with Phase 1A coming shortly behind. So this is to fund Phase 2 at an estimated of $18.5 million. That would be our grant application phase. This particular project manages 27 million gallons of stormwater. So CSO 19 Phase 2 is in a different location than CSO 55. Please note, these are in different locations. They do not overlap. They are not inside of one another. They are in different locations. So Phase 2 is approximate location is listed out here. Both ultimately outfall though into the Jersey Creek, which then goes into the river. So that is their common location is the outfall locations. CSO 19 grant funding breakdown by activities. Our requested amount again is $20 million with no local match per the EPA requirements. The unified government activities are the CSO 19 Phase 2 design and construction at $18 million. Stormwater treatment facilities maintenance is $1 million. Groundwork Energy is our community-based organization who is facilitating the community collaboration component. And then Douglas Sumner is our workforce development community based organization, their component for that, each at $500,000. So again, we're recommending our actions. We don't need the fast track, which is what we just learned. And then all sub-awards would then come back with those same stipulations.
And also note, back to the selection of the partners, we did the same process on this one as well. We went through local neighborhoods. I think you had, what, 4 people?
We had 4 groups respond.
On that one, and 2 were selected to move forward with projects that overlap with what they want. Not selected.
Chose, yeah, 2 chose to move forward. Yeah, so we had 4 responses on this particular call for interest. 1 indicated that they were not interested at all and did not support the grant moving forward. 3 were interested and in support. 2 found common ground and ability to provide direct support. And 1 just didn't, we were slightly outside of their boundaries on what made the most sense for them. But they were happy to work with us and talk through all of that.
Question that I would raise is we have $500,000 going to CABA in Senate Bill 55. Here I see $500,000 going to each one instead of splitting the 500.
CSO 55.
I'm sorry. Oh, CSOs, thank you. Thank you. Habits are hard to break. But we have $500,000 being designated to both neighborhood groups. In the prior one, prior CSO, it was the 500,000 for the outreach. Now we're giving 2 groups 500,000, so we're taking 500,000 additional dollars out of the programming. Why wasn't that 500 split 250, 250?
It is a different area. Thank you, Commissioner Kane, and it's different applications. So this application is more geared towards workforce development, maintenance, and capital. So we've got two various components. Douglas Sumner is assisting with the maintenance and the engagement of workforce development. And then we have Groundwork Energy, who is facilitating the community collaboration, the full engagement, education, and the whole programming outreach component.
I do remember hearing from Sumner Douglas representation in reference to the Jersey Creek issue. And that is, I think Ms. Hicks may have brought that up when she discussed it in reference to ensuring that we weren't going to be tearing up the concrete around Jersey Creek and turning it into a swampland. That's what it was before, and we have businesses there now in a church. And Mount Carmel, I believe, has a development they're working on, and that's a point of grave concern up there. And I just want to be transparent that I've had a number of communiques in the last couple of weeks in reference to CSO 19. So if we can be transparent and have these tough discussions now before we take action, I think it would be beneficial for those that chose to be here this evening. I will just state, I think the 500,000 to each organization is quite high to do the same thing that one organization is doing now, even though it's two different things. I know, let me have my piece, and then I'll shut up. But that's taken $500,000 out of the program that can go into addressing the concerns that we have dealing with the grant application. Now we've got $2 million, stormwater treatment facilities maintenance. We have $2 million that has been specifically earmarked. I think this comes back to Mr. Kane's concern about having additional eyes over the project. Because if I had have been told up front that we had two $500,000 entities, you would have probably heard from me early on, but I hadn't had a chance to have that discussion. This is the first time I've seen that I'm aware of, but I do want to bring it up that nothing against either organization. But if we had another one come on with CABA, we would have had another 500,000 gone, if that's what I'm to understand, because now they're going to be doing the same community outreach, just a little bit different message. And that's it. So that's my comment. Now, Sarah, you can push back on me.
I appreciate the game. I do. But I will say that those two scopes of work are very different. And when we do come back with the subawards, it'll be very apparent. We also do have, our community-based organization representative from Groundwork to talk about that if you would like for them to. But this particular grant focuses predominantly and enhances on workforce development. Again, our project is 18.5 million. We're going after the 20. So we're looking at additional opportunities being brought into the community. That additional opportunity is through our maintenance efforts and then bringing in training facilities for workforce development to enhance our ability to be competitive in the market for maintaining these facilities in the future.
And I'll also note on that is as we think about these grant applications, we've obviously looked at a bunch of grant applications over the years, very large ones. We're applying for this grant. We don't have the money. Having two partners is more attractive than one to the EPA when they start looking through grants. So the more boxes we can check off that list that Sarah noted, the 6 steps at the beginning, the more we can get or related to that, the better chance we have of getting the grant.
I understand that. When I look at workforce development, there's a workforce development organization in Wyandotte County that helps identify workforce development. But we're also a blue collar community where we have a number of apprenticeship programs that I just want to ensure that our training program through the community college, through our labor movement is looked at and included in this ongoing maintenance training, because they are an integral part of this development and design process, and we would be remiss to dismiss those as resources already here.
Those resources are identified in our application along with the MARC. There's a MARC certification program that we reference as well, being leveraged for our area.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Kane?
I like your comments. about apprenticeship program and using the community college and other locals. And if you're looking for a local, I know one. And I agree, that's a lot of money. And that's why I'm saying we need some commissioners as oversight to make sure that we do this. I think I mean, I know that's the target number you can't exceed, but we'd always want to go under that. But this goes into my original motion is we need eyes and ears for us to look and say, okay, well, do we need this here? Or should we go here or go to the community college or go to spend the money wisely? You know, and I want to reemphasize too, that this is, you know, 40,000 or $40 million that we're not going to have to pay somebody at the government's going to have to pay, and we're not out a dime. You know, so that's what makes this palatable. Because I know there are going to be some people upset about this, but if we're saving $40 million, that's because if we don't do it, we're going to have to spend the $40 million, I guess is the flip side of that. So whatever motion I made last time, I want to make that same motion.
Let it be noted. We have a number of people that want to make comments. Commissioner, I'm sorry, Mr. Wakes, you had.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Pam, Penn Hicks, for your comments earlier, because I think Pam, she was speaking about equity within our community, and these particular developments are happening in the Northeast area. And I've never seen so much eagerness to have oversight over such projects as I do now, with commissioners wanting to have oversight over how those funds are spent. When we look at Weston, how those funds we just give, and I don't see much oversight in those projects. But here, when we get to the Northeast area, we want commissioners to have oversight. So I just want to make sure that we're sensitive to that when we talk about the projects that are happening in the Northeast area. That's all. Thank you.
And Mr. Wake, I would say that the oversight isn't because it's the Northeast end. I think it's the fact that it's $40 million going to projects that we are.
About time.
Yes, that's the transparency I believe Mr. Kane was referring to on the $40 million in grant opportunities that we have. That's a once in a long time opportunity for us, and we just want to make sure we get it right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, real quick. So CSO 55, you were saying that's a $60 million project by itself, or is it $60 million altogether for CSO 55 and CSO 19?
Two separate numbers. So 60 million for CSO 55, and then, total project is 29.5 million for CSO 19. It's broken up into two phases. And so we're looking to fund the second phase.
Okay, because I'm sorry.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I know I'm still, so let's go back to that partner over there at CSO 19. Okay. Why don't we just put the $500,000 with us and then give them boys a quarter apiece, and then they can partner on what they need to do? What's wrong with that? I mean, because at the end of the day, CABA's doing the same thing that these boys are doing, and I know it's two different projects, but they're about this, you know, they're obviously this is a smaller project because it's less money. We're looking at 29 million something, and then the other project 60 million altogether. So what's not, you know, give them boys a quarter apiece, and then put the other half towards the project, or put that other half that we don't need towards CSO 19. And bring that 60 million down, now it'd be 40 million, bring that down just a little bit farther.
Think about my thoughts here. So we're going through this, and every organization will be doing something different. It's not everybody's doing the same thing. So these will all provide a benefit to the citizens of Wyandotte County, and specifically to that area that this project is in. So I think it's hard to say it now, but I think when we come back to you with the actual contract for the CBO, you'll be able to see that what is broken down and what each organization is doing more specifically.
Troy, can you please turn your mic on?
Is on. Sorry, I'll move it closer. So you'll be able to see where that money is broken down to more specifically and how much is going and what it's exactly going to. But it's, both these organizations are not doing the same thing.
Well, it kind of looks like it to me. I mean, if you give them a quarter apiece, it's, you know, they can work together and be in one building at one time or whatever they need to do to educate. And then we just put the other half towards the job.
Mr. Lopez, do you have any other questions?
That's it. That's it.
Commissioner Burns?
Yeah. Troy, in your earlier comments, you said that the federal government would most likely look favorably if we had two community groups on the application. Is that right? Did I hear you right?
Yes, that's what I said. I mean, whether it's 2 or 3 or 1 or the more, they put guidance out there that says, hey, this is what we're looking for in this. And if we check more boxes that say what they're looking for to get the grant, I'm just making the assumption that they will look more favorably on that application. That's how it's worked in other applications where we've worked for in the past, where it's, hey, we said we want these 10 things, as many of those 10 things as you can get. And as much of a level of effort as you can put towards those things, that's what we look for in our award. That's history of what we've seen in other grant applications.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I would just like to once again reiterate that this came before us, not CSO 19, but in discussions earlier, I want to say last year, when it was brought up about Jersey Creek. And we've had a conferee this evening spoke in reference to Jersey Creek. And I'm just going to be as transparent as chair of the committee. This concerns are that Public Works will ignore the community's request to leave Jersey Creek in the manner it is now and not take it back to natural grasslands, which would in turn create the marshland that they chose not to accept and had Public Works update it. So I think there's concern that you will be spending money to bring a hazard back where I'll let the conferees make the comment, but there's been investment made in that area and there's a lot of neighborhood concern in reference to Jersey Creek. Matter of fact, I believe it was a Representative Sumner Douglas was opposed to the project and now they're going to be part of the project. So I don't know what's occurred since then, but I do know that Mr. Owens was outspoken and very concerned about the Jersey Creek development area. And I've received a number of calls in the last week in reference to Jersey Creek. So as a committee member, I will speak up for them this evening. And if anybody, when we get to that part of the public, they can come up and speak. But if not, I shared with them that I would do my best to get a public commitment from Public Works that you would not go in and tear up Jersey Creek, what it is today, and return it to marshland.
We currently have no funds for that or project for that, and we've actually received a directive not to do that. Therefore, we will not be doing it at this time. I can't promise forever because I don't know what the federal government will say. At some point, we may be directed to do it, just like we're directed to separate sewers now. So I can't speak forever, but we will not be tearing that concrete up. We've repeated that many times and I've said the same thing many times, but it keeps coming back up again. So hopefully saying this in a public meeting will get that point across so I don't have to answer that question anymore.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that because it wasn't a public meeting and a full commission meeting that the request was made, but yet here we are again, and it's still coming forward that there has been no hard commitment to abide by the commission's position as well as the neighborhood's position, but yet we're still dealing with CSO 19. I don't believe there's a commissioner that wants to see $20 million lost. And that's what this application is about, is the $20 million. However, that part of that money goes into the neighborhood groups and they have a right to have a voice at the table in reference to what they'd like to see in their community. So that's why I ask about another public commitment that you will abide by. I'll give Miss Pamela Finn Hicks credit for bringing that forward before I had a chance to bring it forward. But that's the kind of concerns that are still being raised in reference to Jersey Creek. So I appreciate the public comment. Madam Clerk, does any other member have a comment or concern? Seeing none, I'll ask clerk if any comments were received from the public.
No comments were received. We do have a hand raised online. Luis Lynch.
Ms. Lynch?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I'm a little hard to hear because I just had surgery. So this is gonna, maybe a little slower, so bear with me. I'm calling in regards to the CSO 19, in regards to the community group, NRG. I am a member of ECHO and work with a lot of the community out there. When Sarah Schaefer came to the group and Alyssa Marcy came to explain this, the community, the group was not in support of this project and the second half and how it was going to be done. They wanted them to sign something to say that they were in support. They refused. They rewrote the letter and saying that they would support them bringing back information before they were to move forward. They were instead, the letter was taken and it was supposed to be given to all the commissioners, not to Public Works, not to Sarah Schaefer, not to Planning and Zoning. Instead, it was put into the Waterway Corridor document along with names, addresses, and phone numbers, putting people at risk of their safety into the document without their permission, moving it forward that as we were in support of this. If this is what you're going to give $500,000 to an organization that is not being trustworthy, that is not complying, that is misleading the group, the community, I have a big problem and I would halt this application, because if you cannot be honest, this is why there are questions about the marsh. When I went into Public Works to speak with Troy Shaw, he was not the nicest person and very short and very rude and really did not want to have time to answer questions or to go into anything.
You have 1 minute
If
remaining.
we as the community do not have the opportunity to ask these questions and have our information put out there without our consent, given to the other organizations that they have hired to put out their publication without our consent, using our personal information, that is not only unethical, unlawful, but quite disgusting. And that does not agree with the consent decree. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. Madam Clerk, are there any other hands raised?
Yes, we have 2 more hands raised. Sarah, no last name. Please state your name and residency. You'll have 3 minutes.
Sarah? We can come back to Sarah's. What's the other hand raised?
Muted.
Hello.
There you go. Okay, Sarah.
There we go. Hi, Sarah Lynch, member of ECHO, and Wyandotte resident. First, I want to say thank you to the commissioners for working to find solutions to ensure that the money goes to where it needs to go to and where it best serves our community. I greatly appreciate that, and I greatly appreciate all the solutions that have been presented tonight in regards to that. I like to say I would strongly urge the commission, if not to cancel this grant process, to table it. I understand that there is a deadline for next week. However, I was part of the redrafting of the letter from ECHO. When it came to us to sign, it was already pre-drafted and it's read as a sort of blanket support. We drafted it so that we would be informed. The blanket support letter stated that we supported the plan for the waterway corridor and that we supported everything. We would have supported a plan if there was a plan presented to us that we could lend our support to. However, there are many members of ECHO that were not in support of what was presented to us. And so when we redrafted it, we added that we would support a potential waterway corridor plan and that we would support the research and finding of grants and coming back to ECHO, presenting that information and presenting what the plan is with that in a plan that we would be able to support. I keep saying that a lot, but my main gist is we did not support what was presented to us. We supported a fact-finding mission to be able to find those grants and to be able, as it was framed to us, get the ball rolling on getting grant applications. It was not explained to us what all of that entailed.
You have 1 minute
And since
remaining.
then, they've cut out all of our meetings, so we've not even been able to meet in regards to what's been going on since that letter. We've had our communications cut off, so we've not had communication with Groundworks NRG or with the people that usually meet with us to help us facilitate ECHO meetings. And that's troubling considering that they're still put forth as the community partner. They're going to get paid $500,000 for this. So in our letter, we said that if the information did not get brought back to us in a plan that we supported, we would rescind our support. And so under these circumstances, the members of ECHO would rescind their support. And I, as a member of ECHO, rescind my support for this. Again, thank you for looking out for the community. It is much appreciated. Thank you.
Ms. Lynch, would you share with me the acronym ECHO? What's that stand for?
Economic Community Health Organization.
Thank you.
No problem.
We have, Madam Clerk, you said we have one more.
Yes, we have one more hand raised online. Thomas Gordon.
Mr. Gordon?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Excuse the pun, but it was well intended. I do echo portions of the previous comments about the letter that was drafted and submitted to the ECHO group. We were doing that for fact finding, and they are correct that we expected information to come back to us so that we could really understand what was going on and what we were committing to our support. The part about Groundworks being untrustworthy, no one in ECHO that I know of supports that allegation. I think Groundworks has been very upfront with us. They facilitated a lot of things, and whenever there was a problem that was brought forth, I met myself with the director, Rachel Jefferson, and we had conversation about some concerns, and we were able to see change being made. I do agree with Sarah that we don't need to cancel this. It needs to be tabled, and we need to revisit and find out what we're committing to. And if that can happen, I'm sure the majority of the ECHO members would be in support of that. That's why the organization was formed, so that we could review various economic components that was affecting our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Madam Clerk, is there any more hands raised?
I see no other hands raised online.
Thank you. Is there anyone present this evening who would like to speak to this? Please state your name, and you will have 3 minutes and your place of address too, please.
Pamela Penn Hicks, Wyandotte County. This illustrates part of what I was speaking to earlier, that community engagement needs to be deeper and wider. ECHO members are paid to participate in that program. So their solicitation of their opinion is somewhat, should we say, orchestrated. And they even have concerns about how their information was used. And then secondly, during a previous conversation, Ms. Schaefer and Mr. Shaw had indicated that Public Works would be responsible for the maintenance of these new areas that they're going to develop as part of green infrastructure. So my concern is that when the money runs out or the money is used up, who is going to be responsible for making sure that those areas are properly maintained as green infrastructure? EPA entered into a consent decree with us because it had not, the combined sewer system had not been done, and they were finally forced to make us do it. So in 2020, that's when that happened. So I would like to know what's going to be the long-term plan for maintaining these green infrastructure areas, and if we are going to, at some point in the future, have a gray infrastructure removed and green infrastructure placed in particularly the Jersey Creek area, who will be responsible for the maintenance of all of the areas that are developed within these CSOs?
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Is there anyone else present who'd like to speak to this? Please state your name and residence for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Eleanor Jefferson, and I'm a resident of Kansas City, Kansas. I'm also a co-founder of Groundwork NRG. And I want to thank everyone who spoke or who's speaking and will speak on behalf of this particular grant. As a co-founder of Groundwork NRG, which is that probably, I guess, maybe going on 13, 14 years, is at a time where we didn't have any community engagement. It was a time we didn't have any grants that were coming in to do anything, be it separation of stormwater, be it affordable housing, anything to do with using the utilization of land. We didn't have anything. Ms. Hicks and I were part of an organization to start a neighborhood business revitalization, and because of other decisions that didn't work. But I wanted to address them a little bit that I know, and I work a lot, as you all know, on the land bank, not necessarily on the EPA, is that what I believe that the Lynch family is referencing is the waterway corridor project, which this is not. So the comments about the petition and so forth are not properly placed. As I sat here and also read this particular document, what impressed me is the intensity with which this plan is supposed to and required to actually do community engagement. I am a firm believer, by having been in this business for a while, that community engagement is an art, and it requires a skill. It requires sustainability. It's not a fly-by-night thing. And as people age, as people die, as new people come on, as new people speak different languages and have different cultures, it's iterative, but it has to actually be something that is custom made for the moment. So it thrilled me to see the level of detail and the requirement for the community engagement. The other piece of this is in the accountability. And I speak to this for Commissioner Kane because he was very much on top of that. And that is extremely important. It does emphasize the partnership between the lead agency and also Groundwork NRG and Douglas Sumner. So that's definitely in there. And then the last comment that I want to make is on the workforce development piece. Everywhere, I'm sure, in Wyandotte County, there's a need to employ our youth, to employ the people who are not working. We know that there are many jobs in Fairfax that are available, but we don't have people who are able to take care of that or to earn that money. We all see people who leave Wyandotte County going to other counties and taking the money that could circulate in our area elsewhere. So I support the effort and the investment in the workforce partnership, not only because it takes care of people who are here now, but also it is the future. Whether we call it whatever it is we call it, we know that industry is an evolutionary thing, and green infrastructure and the changing of that is right on the brink. It would be great for Wyandotte County to be an example, not only here in Kansas,
Your
but
time has
also
expired.
globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Anyone else present care to speak to this item? Mr. Murray?
Thank you, Commissioner Lavert Murray, Chief Economic Development Advisor, Mayor Tyrone Garner's office. Earlier, it was stated, and my comments are not designed to be pro or con with regard to these projects, but as I indicated earlier, when it was asked why there was a delay in this application coming forward, I indicated that there had been many efforts designed to ferret out more information on these projects. Earlier, Mr. Shaw indicated that the awards would help defray the costs and help save in costs for our taxpayers. And of course, one of the things we've attempted to find out, because what we find is that the grant adds to, or the grant application adds to the work efforts, and it also adds the dollars to help defray some of the costs. What we've tried to identify is how much is going into these initiatives that the grants are having us at. For example, if you'll go back to the earlier charts that lays out the project, it talks about the GODOT plan, it talks about the KCK plan, and you will recall requiring the GODOT plan to come back to the commission so that you could remove the requirement that the Central Avenue Bridge be raised so that we could pursue federal grants to help rebuild the Central Avenue Bridge. Well, you have a similar situation here in that there are elements of the project that points to, for example, a trail system. The GODOT plan points to bike lanes. These are elements that are added to the work that would not be added were it not for the grant. And so we were trying to find out how much have we added and then how much will the grant defray. But things like that. Now, I only bring that out so that there would be total transparency so that you, the commission, understands here's what we're going after and here's what we're buying. But there are added elements, and then the grants are providing funds to address some of those added elements. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Let the record show no one else step forward. Committee, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I just real quick, I don't know if Ms. Lynch can hear me, but my email is pjlopez@wycokck.org. You can email me everything that you talked about, because there was some contradicting things. So I'd like to do my homework on that. But for right now, because I know we're at a time crunch on this, I'm still in supportive of this as of right now, but at least give me time till November 7th to do some more homework.
Thank you. Well, I think during this discussion, if we've done anything, we've through Mr. Kane's motion to ensure that the commission is involved in how those monies will be spent in reference to the equity portion. The fairness to the community is extremely important. Their buy-in and their commitments in reference to what is best for their community. Also, the direct offset to the ratepayers, I think is extreme importance. Those are dollars that we will hopefully be able to utilize in the future to address other issues. But we have the two $20 million grants that as I stated earlier, I have not talked to a commissioner that's opposed to additional monies coming in from the federal government. So committee, whatever, I will do your bidding, whatever your motion might be. Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7. I think in all fairness, when I asked for the question that Ms. Hicks raised, for her question to be answered, I think I would also like to extend the same courtesy to the question that was raised regarding Ms. Lynch's I'm not sure there was a lot thrown out there. I really don't quite understand everything that was said there regarding a letter and then no response and then nobody got contacted back and the letter was put into so if something, I mean, it makes me real uncomfortable when I hear those things. And now that we're at this time crunch now, that we have to make this decision because we're on this short leash, if you will. I just like to hear what, and then one comment was made that from, I think it was Mr. Thomas Gordon, said that there were members that were getting paid for their opinion. So I'm not sure what to say there, or, you know, I mean, so if you can answer a little bit about that, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, Sarah Schaefer, Public Works. I believe Elnora Jefferson tried to explain a little bit about that, but they are referencing a waterway corridor plan. It is a planning strategy document that was a synthesis of multiple local area plans to try to identify the key components in each one of those plans for grant opportunities. That plan has not had an opportunity to come to the commission or to the standing committee to be presented for information. But it, as she identified in her item, I'll continue to say it's not the same thing. This is a CSO 19 consent decree project. And that is the Waterway Corridor Plan, which is a planning strategy out of, you know, you see those in planning and zoning type of things. We reference them as engineers to make sure that we're in alignment. Alignment does not mean that we're adding anything to it, but it means that there's synthesis or there's cohesion. If we're going to put in a maintenance system, usually that looks like a trail. So that's what alignment in various components mean. So we have to plant plants and trees. And so that's in alignment with Heat Island because we're increasing our green spaces or our canopy for air quality. But those are the alignment components from these grants. And that's what we try to look for when we put the grants and the projects together. So if we're already doing the work, we try to reference how that work matters in other areas because it builds a stronger, compelling story.
So as far as the personal information and no more contact and what's that all about?
That's part of the plan. There was a survey that went out with the plan during community engagement, and those who responded to the survey had the option to make their choices, and those choices then were recorded and put in the back end of all of our documents. So any types of surveys or public engagement or sign-in sheets are always included in planning documents and efforts. And those answers are recorded, and those answers were then made through that publication. Since then, they've been retracted per the request. So we've taken out those documents.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Lopez.
One more question. When you said planting the trees, I remember that was part of everything. Is that part of like groundworks that they would do? Or is that your guys' tail end?
I was just referencing that as an option in alignment. So if we have street trees go in, we usually reference that as an alignment with like a GoDot mobility or an alignment with air quality from public health. But we don't have any specific plans and designs at this time. That's part of this whole project. So part of the EPA grant is to reach in and involve the community in organizing and identifying what that design is. So we do not have a design to know that level of detail.
Right. I was just wanting to get, and I don't know if it would be contradicting or not, but just the FYI, I have an account with Cat Nursery where I wouldn't make any money, but you guys should use that account to buy trees wholesale versus retail, be cost effective because those planting them trees are not cheap.
They're more than welcome to procure through our procurement opportunities for the lowest price. That sounds great.
Any other questions? If it's my understanding, the federal government will be the ones that approve all expenses and determine if those should be paid. So I think that's an additional layer of oversight I don't want to lose sight of. One other question, if I may, why is CSO 19 needing to be advanced? Is it because we have the opportunity for 2 grants for the 21st versus the 1 grant? Because I will share with you, as I've shared with the administrator's office, the pressure that I got was CSO 55 was the important one. And now they're being combined and they're both being advanced to November 7th meeting. So is CSO 19 under the same timeline guidelines?
Correct. CSO 19 and CSO 55 are under the same guidelines and timelines for the application to the EPA grant.
Okay, great. And I do appreciate the on-threes that we've had to get us up to speed. I would just ask this as a member of this committee and as chair, if we have more CSOs with grant funding possibility, please don't wait till the very last minute to bring them forward to us so that we have a chance to have a strong review to those. The optics of it are questionable. And, you know, perception can lead people a certain way, but I just would ask that as a favor to you so that we wouldn't have these long meetings, that we can get the open discussion done before we come to committee and get down to the facts. So
We'll make sure we get them in Civic Clerk as soon as we can when we find out about the grant application. Once it gets past there, I don't know that I have a lot of control over it. I guess a question for you is, from my perspective, and maybe this is more for David, when we enter something in Civic Clerk, how long would commission expect staff to wait for that to get put on an agenda before we start asking questions? Maybe that's a question for David, because I don't have any control over that once we enter the information.
well, and I'll speak for myself. I know if information this technical, this much, it takes a while to digest it, and that's just your issue. When we have other agencies coming before us to read through that, but we want to do what's fair and equitable all across the community, and we want to be fair to staff and the work that you put in. We just ask that we reciprocate the same way. Give us, you all eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. We don't. And when it comes before us real quick, it raises our antennas.
Guess my question is, we can enter something in Civic Clerk 3 months before, but we have no control of when that gets to you guys from a staff perspective. And my question is just how long, what's the last, because I can go start asking questions to people, but I don't have an answer for that necessarily.
And I don't have an answer for that right now either. Mr. King?
I think that the 2 groups need to get together and poke each other's eyes out till they figure it out. You know, they have a hard job, you have a hard job. We need to work together so we get the understanding of what's going on. So I don't want to point fingers at anybody. We just need to do a better job of getting this to us faster and with more explanation. And on-threes are fantastic to make this work for us. So.
Thank you. Mr. Wakes?
Yeah, it could be the size of the material, but I do recall a meeting where it was stated that if it's a grant item, those items be brought quickly. Was that something we did in economic development and finance?
I think it was economic development and finance. We had that discussion. I don't believe it was in public works.
Yeah.
But, well, committee, whatever your favorite, but Commissioner Burns.
Yeah, Troy, when you bring up something like you just did about you put it here and it's putting on a shelf or whatever, I would suggest that you get a hold of Commissioner Burrows, who is the chair of this committee, and say, hey, I've done this. I don't know where it's at. I mean, we don't know unless you were told. You know, I think you assume we know all these deadlines and everything else, but unless we're told, we don't know. I don't care that you can call me and tell me, hey, can you please find out why that's being held up? I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh, I appreciate
Without question.
And honestly, I will be honest. My unfamiliarity with Civic Clerk and how that all worked, I thought commission could see that the minute it went in there. I didn't know that. I found that out through this process. So I appreciate knowing that, because I just know I enter the information and then it gets approved whenever we get to commission. So.
And if the planning department gets in there and is holding you up getting things done properly, let us know.
Yeah, you should.
Please.
Any other questions or comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes, this is Brittany with UG Clerk's office. I do want to just chime in there about the civic clerk entering. We get it up to the administrator in the mayor's office, and as soon as we get it back, that's when we're able to put it on the agenda. We do have agenda reviews at the same time with pending items as well. This has been on the pending agenda for a while and a few discussions. It was given to us today for approval to be blue sheeted on the updated agenda tonight. We did not have control over when that item got to us. Just as Troy said, he did enter it both same time. This one just came later to us today.
Okay, so I guess that goes back to the question, if in fact it was submitted today, it's on the same timeline?
It was not submitted today. It was given approved back to us today.
Thank you.
Yes.
Monica, please.
There is an approval process in Civic Clerk, and that's what Troy is referring to. It's a software program. Civic Clerk is a software program. All it does is allow us to track items as they come forward. However, there is a process that allows the administration as well as the mayor to be able to look at items, make sure that they're fully vetted before they come to standing committee. And that process was put in place by the mayor and the administrator. So sometimes, especially with complicated items, it's going to take a little longer to get to standing committee because there are questions. And that's what you're seeing here is that this was a complicated item. There were questions. And until those questions got resolved, it was not coming before the standing committee. Normally, an item goes through pretty quickly. Does that answer what you need?
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Lopez, Monica, please.
Yes.
So, okay, so all this was put into play a long time ago, but so the mayor's office and administrator's office is holding up the show on some of it. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would not say that. It wasn't put into play a long time ago. It's been pending about 60 days.
6 days?
60.
60 days. Oh, I would say that was a long time ago in my book.
Okay.
So that would have been plenty of time, more than, so I just gotta, I mean, do we have to go kick down their door and find out what's going on?
No, I don't think so. I think what happens is there needs to be a little bit better communication so that everyone involved has the answers that they need on a timely basis. And that's all that it comes down to. We meet weekly to review these items. So they should continue to move forward pretty quickly.
Well, I appreciate that information because I will be banging on their door tomorrow morning for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I will state that as chair, I do attend an agenda review and deal with staff, the mayor, and even when I listen to my fellow committee members raise questions, I take those before in my on-threes. I presented some pretty forward questions in that meeting to ensure that even though you weren't in there with me in that on-3, that as your chair, I hear these comments and questions and I brought them forward to the on-3s. But I do know that just from past practice, the former commissioners, some of them that were really adamant about blue sheeting, I think that has carried over. We see those, and when they come out real heavy lifting for us, we're the ones that are held responsible. And we just respect the fact that you all eat, breathe, and sleep it. We may need some additional time. So with that being said, I do want to make sure that we haven't got a motion yet, but when the motion is made, should it be made, the motion will have to include to November 7th, because I believe this one wasn't asked, that this needs to have the motion to advance to November 7th. The
Mr.
first one
Chair,
didn't.
we did have a motion from Commissioner Kane.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And any items that are approved on this agenda will automatically go to November 7th. So you do not need that fast track added.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. There's been a lot of discussion. And I do want to thank those that spoke this evening in reference to the Jersey Creek. And Troy, I really appreciate you making a public statement, because hopefully the messages will the message might change about how we can now collaborate collectively together, now that there's commissioners on there, to ensure that the issues about Jersey Creek can be addressed should we move forward. Okay. Okay, yes, Commissioner Burns and then
Yes.
Commissioner Stites.
Our clerk's office does a wonderful job. Believe me. Years ago, I was the county clerk across the street, so I know how detailed that can be. And they do a wonderful job. But this, I've been here since December of last year. This is the only organization I've ever been around that has meetings to have meetings. That's why things don't get done around here. Thank you.
Commissioner Stites.
Well, so here's what I'm gonna say at the end of the day. I hate and you know what, I'm on EDNF and I don't like the blue sheets. We get them there and then we're put under this time frame crunch. You know, there's questions that have been raised tonight. You know, we've had this, I'm not pointing any fingers about who held it up or why it got held up or anything like that. I don't like blue sheets and I don't like blue sheets and then to say I want it fast tracked because now we're put under a time crunch. I don't like it. And I hopefully we start addressing those more and more, eliminating the blue sheets. Thanks.
Okay. Committee, what's your,
There's a motion.
do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites. Kane. Wakes.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. This will not be a consent item issue. It will be an issue that will be on non-consent for full disclosure for public, making room for public comment at our November 7th meeting. Just that's the process. Committee, thank you. Public Works, before we, Commissioner Burns, I'm sorry.
Yes, before you leave, I think it was November 30th of last year that the prior commission directed your staff to pursue as well as you can the Central Avenue Bridge. Citizens all the time ask me, it's in my district, what's the status of it? I have no idea because we aren't told what's going on with it. And so I recommend that you periodically give us a status of what you're doing to pursue the best you can to get grants to get that thing done. Because I believe the commission last year directed you to do so, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm mistaken, tell me.
You're not mistaken. We've applied for a grant the last round and did not get it. We're unsuccessful.
So what are you doing now?
There are grant opportunities and I think the one we did last year is an annual one. So we'll look at it to get at least that one again next year and see what else comes.
Are they always annual?
Do what?
Are they always annual grants?
Not always. It depends on the program that they come out with. Sometimes they have, I think that when they introduced this cycle, a lot of them were a 5-year rolling cycle. Some of them are just single every once in a while.
Well, I would appreciate it if you'd periodically inform me of the present status of that. And I assume Commissioner Burrows would like the same. It's his district too. And I think he's getting the same questions from citizens that I am.
We used to put notes about that on our Friday footnotes when we were doing that, and those, they quit doing that. So I think we're actually talking with them Public Works about starting our own so we can give you information and keep you guys updated, and just get that out there bi-weekly or monthly or however it turns out that you guys want it.
Well, I would appreciate that because, the communication is, not there. And I know you get people complaining to your department, but we get the real complaints from the citizens. And if I can't answer them, I look like a fool. Probably more than I am. But anyway, I would appreciate if your office could do that.
Glad to. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think in reference to Senate, it's a CSO 55, that Central Avenue corridor is extremely important, especially with the investment being made now. So I think that's why I would appreciate the same comments and echo the comments made by Commissioner Byrd. I seen a hand up by Ashley Hand.
Correct.
Ashley, do you have something you want to add to the committee this evening?
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Ashley Hand, Director of Strategic Communications. And just to follow up on the comment by Director Shaw and Commissioner Burns, we will be looking at a new kind of Friday Notes model, trying to kind of get that line of communication opened. That request came to us from David just last week. So we're working on reinstituting that weekly update. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Communication is extremely important in this business. It's currency. Yeah. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Madam Clerk.
Roll call. Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites, Kane, Wakes,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Committee, thank you for your hard work this evening. Staff, thank you. Please stick around for the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee. I believe Mr. Davis will be chairing that meeting.
Hey, everyone, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and make this transition. We will get started here momentarily. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Commissioner Davis, 8th District Commissioner. I'm filling in for Commissioner Melissa Bynum as chair in her stead. Hopefully, I'm able to live up to such high expectations. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. When speaking, be sure and speak directly into a microphone so that all comments are heard and the record of the meeting is accurate. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by noon the day of the meeting. The public will also have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comment will be allowed during each agenda item. Those comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. And it should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call the meeting of the Administration of Human Services Standing Committee meeting for Monday, October 28th, 2024 to order. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call. Hill. Here. Davis.
Here.
Ramirez. Here. Kane. Bynum, we have an absent Minnow.
Thank you. Clerk, are there any revisions to the agenda?
There are no revisions.
Awesome. Well, let's get to business. The first order of business that we have is the approval of the minutes, and this is from June 26th and September 25th of 2023. I know the clerk's office is working very, very hard to get us caught up, and God bless you all. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? All right. A motion by Commissioner Ramirez and a second by Commissioner Hill. Clerk, can we get the roll?
I just have to say, it's those long meetings. We got to shorten them, guys.
You know.
All right, roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Kane. Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, and that motion again was for both of those items. It's for minutes from June 26th and September 25th. Okay, next we have approval of AmeriCorps Kansas funding opportunity, more grants. Our health department is here. Do I have that correct? All right, you all go ahead and introduce yourselves and take it away.
Hi, good evening. Thank you again for this time, the Standing Committee and Commissioners. My name is Ku. I'm the Program Coordinator for the AmeriCorps program at the Health Department, and we are seeking approval of the AmeriCorps Kansas funding opportunity for a grant. And so a little bit about this grant is in the past, we are in our 3rd service year, and it's been fully funded through CDC. And so moving forward for the service year of 25-26, that will no longer be the case. The AmeriCorps program is an opportunity for us to recruit members to improve lives and strengthen communities, foster engagement through volunteerism and service throughout Wyandotte County. And so for the when this current grant year ends, the grant that we would like to apply for would be in the amount of $75,600. However, it does require a 24% match, which in number is $18,144 through the AmeriCorps Kansas Department of Education to continue building capacity and to provide direct service here in Wyandotte County. When we look at the source for the funding, $16,200 will come from our host sites, and so they pay in a site support fee in order to have members at their sites to build capacity or provide direct service. When we look at the match of the $18,144, $16,200 would come from sites different organization. So all but 1,944 will be remaining. However, we figured that $10,874 will come from indirect costs, and then 7,270 will come from administrative personal costs. And so we're requesting approval to proceed with applying for this grant. And then I can answer any further questions you guys may have.
Awesome. I'm going to get to a public comment, and then colleagues, I'll go ahead and indulge you. So clerk, any comments received from the public?
No comments were received.
Anyone online have their hand up?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, is there anyone in the gallery? All right, let the record show. No one is in the gallery right now. Okay, public comment period is closed. Colleagues, any questions, or is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. There was a motion by Commissioner Ramirez and a second by Commissioner Hill. Clerk, can you get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. Thank you so much. Moving on. Thank you all. Ladies, yes, you all get out of here. I'm sure you've been working very hard. So thank you so much.
Done more often.
Anytime we can get some free dollars, that is good news. Okay, this second item is amending the 2-year calendar. This item did come back to this committee because there was some request made for changes. Do we have legal? Do we have anybody that's okay? Cool. Go ahead and take it away.
I can take that, Commissioner Davis. This is Z Bishop with the Unified Government Legal Department. As the commissioner mentioned, this is an item that is coming back to change some additional dates. The full commission had changed the date actually for the commission meeting this week to get it off of Halloween. This additional item, it looks to me like it's just asking to change 2 dates as part of the 2024-2025 schedule. The first one is changing the January 2nd Planning and Zoning and Full Commission meeting to move it forward 1 week to January 9th. And then similarly, this is looking to change the December 30th EDNF and NCD meeting to January 6th. I believe that this was coming forward just to move those out a little ways from the holiday season.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out public comment real quick, and then we'll get to questions. Clerk, do we have anyone online, or did anybody send in any comments for this item?
No comments were received and no hands are raised online.
Okay, let the record reflect there was only one person in the gallery and they are not raising their hand. And so I will go ahead and close public comment. Colleagues, any questions on this change? Okay, and this was something that I recommended just to, again, give us a little bit more of a cushion away from the holidays to ensure we have quorum for meetings. Okay, with that, is there a motion?
Second.
You said, okay, so is that a move to approve, Commissioner Kane? Okay, and that is the second, Commissioner Ramirez. Okay, there is a motion and a second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Awesome. There is no,
Second.
all right, clerk, can we get the roll?
Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Davis,
Aye.
motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Tell him to listen, how to run a meeting. That one, the whippersnapper got in, he ran it right.
I got that all on recording.